Hi, my name is Daniel Lesser, and I'd like to present a class that I give on business meetings. So let's get started. So, introduction to business meetings. How often do you have meetings? How long do the meetings typically last? Do you look forward to meetings? Do you think that some meetings are a waste of time? Have you ever attended a virtual meeting? Do you think that all meetings are important? In your opinion, how many meetings are necessary each week? Business meeting introductions. The following dialogue is taken from a business meeting. Can you complete the dialogue with the correct prepositions? Of, to, in, for, or at? Meeting chairman. If we are all here, let's get started. First all, I would like you, please join me welcoming Brian Jones, our regional sales manager. Brian Jones. Thank you. Having me. I'm afraid our National Sales Director, Frank Delone, can't be with us today. He is traveling the moment. And the answer is, if we are all here, let's get started. First of all, I would like you to please join me in welcoming Brian Jones, our Regional Sales Manager. Brian Jones, thank you for having me. I'm afraid our National Sales Director, Frank Delone, can't be with us today. He is traveling at the moment. Okay, note that Frank Delone is an absentee. Reviewing past business, can you guess the meaning of the expressions in bold? Meeting chairman, let's get started. We're here today to discuss ways to improve online sales. First, let's run through the report from the last meeting, which took place on May the 24th. Brian, can you take over? Brian, thanks, David. We began the meeting by approving the changes to our contract with Brooks Brothers. Then we went over our recent sales numbers. I included a copy of the main ideas discussed on the photocopies in front of you. Beginning a meeting. Can you just guess the meaning of the expressions in bold? Meeting chairman. Thank you, Brian. So, if there is nothing else we need to discuss, let's move on to today's agenda. Have you all received a copy of today's agenda? The first item on the agenda is online sales. Tom has kindly agreed to give us a report on this matter. Discussing items. Can you guess the meaning of the expressions in bold? Tom, before I begin the report, I'd like to get some input from everyone. I would like to know what percentage of your time is spent focusing on online sales. Let's go around the table. John, to be honest, I haven't yet mastered online sales and only devote about 10% of my time reaching out to potential customers online. Susan, I'm on the same page as John. I'd love to learn more about what can be done to increase our online presence. Frank, recently I've been focusing about 50% of my time on online sales, and I've noticed quite an improvement in my numbers. Discussing items. Can you guess the meaning of the expressions in bold? Tom, okay, thanks for that information. Is there anything else anyone would like to add? Tom, well, let me begin with this PowerPoint presentation. Tom, as you can see, we're developing new methods to reach out to online shoppers. Tom, I suggest we break up into groups and brainstorm some ideas. Reach out appears in context for the second time in this lesson here. Note. Finishing the meeting. Can you guess the meaning of the expressions in bold? Meeting chairman. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. We'll have to come back to that at the next meeting. There are still some issues we need to deal with. Brian, before we close, let me just summarize the main points. So again, these definitions are going to be provided later in this lesson. So question, do your meetings usually last longer than planned? Business meeting phrasal verbs. Can you match the phrasal verb with its meaning? So run through or go over something, take over, move on, break up. Well, run through or go over is discuss, read, or repeat something briefly. Take over is to take control of something from another person. Move on is progress. Break up is distribute or separate into groups. Business meeting phrasal verbs. Can you match the phrasal verb with its meaning? Run out of something, reach out to somebody, come back to something, deal with something. Well, run out of something is use the whole supply of something. Reach out to extend one's circle of friends, contracts, etc. Contacts. Come back to something is return to the point where you stopped. And deal with is to take action to solve a problem. Okay, phrasal verb practice. Run through a typical day in your life. Have you ever run out of something important? Do you feel like you're usually on the same page in agreement as your boss? Would you like to take over for your boss? What do you deal with on a typical day? Next, matching exercise. Business meeting vocabulary, match the noun with its meaning. Agenda, item, input, brainstorm, absentee. So an agenda. It's a list of items to be discussed at a formal meeting, an appointment book. Item, an individual unit that is part of a list. Input, a contribution of information. Brainstorm, a spontaneous group discussion to produce ideas and ways to solve a problem. Absentee, a person who is expected to be at an event, but is not. Do you enjoy brainstorming? Do you feel that your boss values your input? Do you like to hear the input of your colleagues or employees? Business meeting vocabulary, match the phrase with its meaning. To chairperson, clarification, consensus, objectives, punctual. Chairperson is a person who leads the meeting. Clarification, an explanation so that something is understood. Consensus, general agreement. Objectives, goals to accomplish. Punctual, arriving on time. Is it easy for your colleagues to reach a consensus? Are you a punctual person? Are all of your colleagues punctual? Okay, business vocabulary conversation. The chairperson or chair is the highest officer of a committee or group. The chair is typically elected by members of the group. He or she presides over the business meeting. Have you ever been the chair of a meeting? What does it mean to preside over a meeting? What are the qualities of a good chairperson? Meeting expressions matching the beginning with its ending. If everyone could take, it's my pleasure. Please join me. We are just waiting. Could you provide us? So if everyone could take a seat, I would like to begin. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our office. Please join me in welcoming our guests. We are just waiting for 2 more people. We'll begin shortly. Could you provide us with a quick update on your recent project? No, we can say waiting on or waiting for. Matching exercise. We have to keep each item. If nobody has anything to add, have I addressed? Let's bring the meeting. That seems to be. We have to keep each item to 15 minutes. If nobody has anything to add, I'd like to move on to the next item on the agenda. Have I addressed everyone's questions? Let's bring the meeting to a close for today. That seems to be all the time we have for today. Meeting expressions practice. Complete each sentence with the missing preposition. Some prepositions are used more than once. So with, at, on, over, to, out, in. We don't have much time. Let's move to the next item. I provided everyone a copy of the report. Please join me in congratulating James on his new position as Vice President. The next meeting will be held Friday the 6th of June, 12 p.m. in the boardroom. Okay, so we don't have much time. Let's move on to the next item. I provided everyone with a copy of the report. Please join me in congratulating James on his new position as Vice President. The next meeting will be held on Friday the 6th of June at 12 p.m. in the boardroom. Okay, with, at, on, over, to, out, in again. So unfortunately we are running out of time. Maria, can you take from here? I have to run. Several companies have reached to me for information on our latest product. It's 5 p.m. Time to bring the meeting a close. We have many topics, the agenda to discuss. Okay. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Maria, can you take over from here? I have to run. It is also possible, though not an option presented. Several companies have reached out to me for information on our latest product. It's 5 p.m. Time to bring the meeting to a close. We have many topics on the agenda to discuss. This is the final slide. So thank you. That's the introduction to business meetings.